Good morning, Saints. The last time we talked about how the cross was the establishment of God's justice, where that question was answered after 4,000 years that God could be merciful and just at the same time. What we're going to look at now is we're going to take a look at what happens at the end time, what's going on just before Jesus comes. Because remember, the whole Bible is about what God is doing to restore justice in an unjust world as he eclipses the kingdom of darkness and prepares for the coming in of the kingdom of light. Now, normally when we go through the book of Revelation, we study different sections and we almost study them in isolation. But we can't do that. Everything's interrelated to each other. And we're going to start and take a look at the seven seals. The seven seals is a section of the book that talks about what the church is doing to overcome in this present world. Chapters 4 and 5 is the introductory scenes. This is where Jesus shows himself victor. He comes into the heavenly court, takes the scroll, and takes his rightful place at the right hand of the Father. He has overcome. And just like he promised in Revelation chapter 3, verse 21, he says, he promises to those who overcome that they will sit with him in his throne as he has overcome and sit with his Father in his throne. Well, Jesus overcomes. He's the one who has been victorious, and he comes into the throne room and takes his rightful place. You see, without him, mankind would be lost. If there was no one found worthy to open the scroll, it would have been the end of the story. But because of Jesus, the story continues. And then into the seven seals, we have the first four, which is the horses. And what we get here is a picture of what God has given the church, the gospel message, to give into the world. And it starts with the white horse, and the gospel is pure and going out there. But each successive horse, the gospel is eclipsed. It seems it gets weaker and weaker and weaker over time. And then we have the fifth seal, which sees what's going on here. The souls of those who've given their life for the cause. They cry out to God, "How long, O Lord, until you judge?" They see that the gospel, which is the power of God, is somehow not potent. It has lost its strength. It's not accomplishing its purpose. And they're asking God, when are you going to step on the stage of action to restore justice in this unjust world? And they're told to rest a while and given white robes. And then we have the sixth seal, which are the signs of the second coming. And with those who see the lamb on the cloud, the wrath, they call for the rocks to fall down on them to hide them from the wrath of the lamb. And then the last question in chapter 6 is, who is able to stand? Well, that's answered in the interlude, because that's the sixth seal, and between the sixth and seventh seals, this interlude chapter, chapter 7, about the 144,000. The 144,000 are able to stand. And it's this 144,000 who stand before the throne in verse 15. And the Lamb spreads his tabernacle over them. He brings them into his home. We, therefore, de facto, sit with Jesus in heavenly places. And so this is the coming home aspect of where God shows that the church has overcome and sits with Jesus in his throne. But we go back to chapter 5, and in chapter 5, we see this picture of the Lamb who has been worthy to open the scroll, and the little anthem breaks out where he's worthy because of him shedding his blood for those who dwell on the earth, that is, on believers, and for every nation, kindred, tongue, and people. And we see in chapter 10, with the angel with the open scroll, where he tells John that someone's been prophesying, but you got to prophesy again, John, to every nation, kindred, tongue, and people. And that happens in chapter 14, verses 6 to 12, the three angels' messages, namely in the first angel's message, where John says, I saw another angel flying in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel, to give to those who dwell on the earth, and to every nation, kindred, tongue, and people. Fear God, give glory, for the hour of his judgment has come. Well, this hour of judgment is not just the doom and gloom, but the fact that now God has stepped upon the stage of action and will be restoring justice in an unjust world. That's the whole purpose of the book of Revelation, is to restore justice, is to restore the world back the way it was before sin came into it. And that's the message you and I get to proclaim. It's the gospel, but it's the gospel in the context of the end times. It's the gospel in context of the last days, where we present God's power, his gospel, and how and what he is doing to restore all things in the world. This is a great message for us to take into this world, especially the way that things are right now. You know, you might think it's a dark world, you might be running in fear, but don't. We can't be fearful. We must be submitting to God and let God guide us into what the message is that we're to give. We're in His hands. And this great message that we have of God restoring all things is the power of God that we are delivered to the world. So let's go out there with a positive attitude of being the lights in the world to give this message so that it may all be restored. Blessings.